Okay.
Finish that.
So I thought it might be the meeting was at 3, but it's
minutes north and I got to guys. There's a lot worse.
Yeah. Well, and the recording knows.
I'll show you this.
right for the. Yeah, and I'm trying to get my clips.
Could be exciting.
So.
Coming to the investor, I think Zan said that they're gonna have these classes that the investor and work like.
Oh, I have a whole bunch.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I bought a 20 about 2 months ago. It had some relatives, but it had more than enough. I didn't know they were really there. So I'll pull them out. We'll be down at camp in the next few days. Yeah. Yep.
They had a couple different ones that I go through. Right.
The days.
Are you going to Florida or something? I thought you were going to.
It's new stuff. I got the Texas.
It's coming. That's what you just told me.
I thought he had a birthday was supposed to be in the news today. So tell me he's wasting time.
Yeah, so that's the same up to school, no.
So you're exhausted?
I'm still thinking they were in school. It's like, you got your nap in.
Piece of pie. Really.
You gotta be close. When they come home, you know, you gotta be energetic. Oh,
Just wanted to say good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight with us and coming out to hear about the preliminary design for the Saranac River Trail Phase 3 within the city of Plattsburgh, and which will be part of a greater regional trail-wide connection. We're really excited that we're at this point in the phase. So far, it's been a year-long process to get to this point in the phase. And I think everybody here can agree that this trail means a lot to the city and has been a long time in the making. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our lead consultant and head designer of this portion of the trail, Lee Jones from Barton and Loguidice. So thank you again.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lee Jones. I'm a landscape architect with Barton and Loguidice, as she mentioned. I'm here with some of my design team. We're a team of civil engineers, traffic engineers, environmentalists, landscape architects, planners. And again, as Alicia mentioned, we've been working with the city for the past year on realizing Phase 3 of the Saranac River Trail. So tonight, I'm just going to walk you through an overview of the Saranac River Trail project as a whole, and then this final component within the city of Plattsburgh. Look at the trail corridor, this again, final piece, looking at existing conditions, and then walking you through the proposed design right now. And currently this design, the draft design report is being reviewed by New York State DOT currently, and that's who is funding this project. And then so we'll take again through the design, and then we'll just sort of again review the schedule again of this project and to understand next steps. And then we can follow it up with any questions or comments or any sort of discussions anyone might want to have. So again, looking at the overall Saranac River Trail, again, this is Phase 3 of the components within the city of Plattsburgh. This is a 26-mile long non-motorized recreation and transportation corridor on-road and off-road, more or less following the route of the Saranac River. And the whole goal is to connect users, again, non-vehicular users, people biking, people walking, with the natural beauty within Plattsburgh and then within the communities beyond. And obviously with all shared use paths, multi-use paths, the idea is also to promote health benefits and environmental benefits, again, of reducing the number of vehicles on the roads and getting people out for passive recreation opportunities. And obviously with this going through the city, it's connecting people to the local economic opportunities within the city. And again, just taking the community outside and engaging the community through this trail. And again, this is an overall timeline of the Saranac River Trail starting back in 2006 when an original feasibility study was put out, really looking at the corridor as a whole and creating a pedestrian path along the river. In 2012 is when phase 1 was completed. And then summer of 2016, another feasibility study was done to sort of, study the remaining parts of the Saranac River Trail through the city of Plattsburgh. In 2016 and 17, the DOT TAP application was submitted, and then it was obviously awarded to the city of Plattsburgh, allowing phase 2 to be completed in 2021. And then over on this map, you can see again, the green trails on the bottom of the map. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. On the bottom of the map, and obviously continues further up the Saranac River. And then it takes us to phase 2, which is the red portion. And then this City of Plattsburgh River Walk, which was just recently completed at the end of last year, is where then we pick up. And this phase 3 is looking at the final purple connection, which takes us down to connect to Peace Point Park. And another study that Barton and Loguidice worked on with the city that was completed in 2023 was looking at a master plan for the Harborside site as a whole. So again, this plan and our design completely reflects all of the engagement work that went into the Harborside master plan as well as all public engagement that has been happening throughout the whole progression of this trail. So this phase 3 that we're talking about tonight is that final phase in the city of Plattsburgh. And again, the whole idea is to have this continuous access along the Saranac River Trail, enhancing the bicycle and pedestrian facilities that are on road on both Bridge and Green Streets, and then providing an on-road connection to the Plattsburgh Riverwalk, like I mentioned, and then finally an off-road connection connecting you to Peace Point Park. As I mentioned, this is being funded by the New York State DOT, a federal aid project, and the city has received funding that you see here on the screen, which requires a local match of 20% for a total of about $1.5 million for this final phase 3 of the project. And as I mentioned, this is our project schedule for this phase 3 to date. We started working with the city in May of last year and spent last summer doing the survey, environmental studies, data gathering, meeting with the city, walking the site, and looking at some design alternatives of understanding what are the opportunities in this last stretch of the corridor, which is about less than a mile. We met with the city last summer and last fall, and obviously have been in communications with them throughout, leading to our submission of the design draft report to the New York State DOT, as I mentioned, this February, and that brings us here tonight. And I'll walk you through the next steps when we get towards the end. So again, this is our path that we are looking at. This right here is where this is aerial before the Riverwalk was completed. So our trail is picking up here on Bridge Street, where it'll be an on-road portion on Bridge Street, down Green Street, and then this is where we become off-road for the remainder of the portion around the water resource recovery facility to connect to the existing pedestrian pathways within Peace Point Park. And so again, when I mentioned we were looking at alternatives, the first alternative is always do nothing, which then obviously doesn't provide that final connection, which is what the city and the users want. Also looking at it possible to make it all off-road, and that isn't possible. Obviously, we're going across Bridge Street. We did look at the feasibility of possibly going along, the riverbanks here, but because of existing utilities, because of the landscape, all that, so we looked at all those items. None of those were feasible for what, the goals of the city, which led us to a combination of on-road with bike lanes and on-road trail like shared roadway. So the bike lanes, we're proposing bike lanes on Bridge Street, and then the pedestrians walking continue to use existing sidewalks. A shared roadway along Green Street, and again, I'm going to walk you through these sections in more detail in a bit, and then off-road through the Harborside portion of it. So as I mentioned, this is less than a mile long combination. Again, the whole goal is to make this this non-vehicular circulation as safe as possible for people biking and people walking. So we've incorporated some curb bump outs along Bridge Street to aid to reduce the crossing for pedestrians. And again, looking at adding signage on it to explain to users how the new roadway is going to be used. And again, the off-road portion, this is just a snapshot of it here, is looking at it 10-foot wide, which allows for two-way traffic of people biking and people walking. These are existing conditions. Again, we're starting up on Bridge Street. So this is the completed Riverwalk, which we're proposing again that will be crossing Bridge Street here. This is the existing bridge on Bridge Street going over the Saranac River. This is our intersection. Look, we're standing on Green Street, looking back into the intersection with Peru and Bridge. This is now looking down Green Street. And then when you get there, this is the Heritage Trail that connects over to the pedestrian bridge that then goes back over the Saranac River. And these pictures are all now within Harborside, the Harborside site. This is again, looking back at that pedestrian bridge. We're now standing over here on the site. And again, this is us walking. This is that water recovery resource facility and walking around that to connect finally to Peace Point Park down here. So now these are our proposed designs, and each, this cross section here, this is then a section up here to understand what we're proposing on Bridge Street. So again, currently the existing crosswalk on Bridge Street is here that going across to the co-op, to the parking lot. We're proposing, obviously, with this new creation of the Riverwalk, is that crosswalk would be shifted down to allow for people biking and people walking to cross Bridge Street here. And we're proposing again, the pedestrians will continue to use the existing sidewalks for their circulation through this stretch of the greenway, and then new bike lanes are proposed on either side. So again, looking at a 5-foot wide bike lane, an 11-foot wide vehicular travel lane, and then another travel lane, the bike lane, and then parallel parking is maintained on one side of Bridge Street in this section. And then again, as there are bike lanes here on, is that Market or no, what's
City Hall.
City Hall. So there's bike lanes here. We're just proposing a shared roadway for this final connection, adding in a bike box here at this intersection, just to allow then bicyclists to then connect to the bike lanes there. And the reason we didn't connect to the bike lanes further here was to maintain the on-street parking on this final segment of Bridge Street. This again, we're continuing, and I apologize, we're reorienting you. I guess we're seeing how well you know your space, that we are now on Bridge Street, and Bridge Street is now coming down on this slide. Again, at this intersection, we just looked at that photo. We're proposing a bike box here, and that allows the bicyclists to get in front of the cars at the intersection of the traffic light so that the cars are aware of them and they sort of have that ability to start first when the light turns green. And again, existing, there are share roads for a shared roadway where Bridge Street continues down and continues down to the bike path along the lake in that direction. And then our project continues down Green Street, which in this there'll be an incorporation of signs for share the road to understand that people biking, walking, and vehicles will all be using Green Street for this portion of the trail. And then when we get down to Harborside, again, this is the Heritage Trail that we mentioned, and we're proposing, well, this is where it goes currently. We're proposing a reroute of that to allow this walkway, our new shared use path, to come through, ensuring that everything is ADA accessible, and including the connection to that pedestrian bridge. Our project is not including any improvements to that existing pedestrian bridge, but there are currently stairs on this side. So we are looking at regrading it so that that pathway comes in at a flush condition. And again, this is a 10-foot wide shared use path, allowing two-way traffic for people biking and people walking. And again, this Heritage Trail would come off and just sort of be pulled in a little further into Harborside. Sort of this four-way T is an area that we would look at to possibly add a kiosk or maps, where that information is sort of you get to Harborside and get an understanding of what is on Harborside, and as Harborside continues to develop, information in this area could follow along with that. And again, just to orient you, this is obviously the Saranac River over here, and this existing boat launch area would remain. And this again is us continuing down parallel to Green Street and then hitting the water resource recovery facility. Something key to note here is, if you're all familiar with the Harborside, there's an existing berm. This first dashed line is the existing berm, and that's put in there for flood control. And so the design of our walkway is slightly above the existing flood level, which is 102.4. And so our trail itself does not come below that. And, there are obviously times where the waters could come above this berm, but we looked at opportunities to bring, again, if you're out there, there's a nice walking trail here that's lower than the berm, but again, for long-term maintenance, for the stability of this walkway, we found that being at the top of the berm is going to give it biggest longevity in terms of maintenance. And as you can see, we're proposing to widen that berm significantly, so it doesn't feel like you're riding on top of something with drop-offs on either side. So there's a 5-foot shoulder on either side of the 10-foot wide path for the berm area. And again, we continue around the work here, and now this is where the river meets the lake. And here we're proposing, because we worked closely with the work as well, they reviewed our plans to ensure that the maintenance and how they work within their facility is not compromised by the addition of this shared use path. And so as you can see, we're proposing this again, 10-foot wide shared use path, and separated by a fence to allow them to still have their access road. And again, if you can see this, like the lower dashed black line is the existing grade. And again, we are proposing a slight raise of elevation there, and that's just because of the floodplain again. So that was one of our driving design factors. And this is the terminus of it, where we connect with East Point Park over here to the existing asphalt walkways here. And as you know now, this is where boats will enter in and drop off into the lake. There's also a kayak launch here. And currently the traffic patterns for the vehicles sort of come around this whole triangle area. So in the whole, one of the main goals here is to improve safety for people biking, people walking, is really looking at better defining the vehicular circulation to separate it from the pedestrian and bicyclist to the greatest extent possible. So we're proposing that this section gets closed off. The pathway would come through there and connect to this existing walkway. Still allowing the functionality of this boat launch, still allowing the access to the kayak launch. But just really defining these uses, these overlapping uses much more for safety reasons. And again, this brings us back to our next steps. As I mentioned, the design report is with DOT right now to review it and give approval to the city to go into detailed design. And then we will, the goal that the plans you're seeing here will be brought through to construction documents, allowing the city to go out to bid with the hopes of having trail construction starting in 2025. And that is all I have, but I can go back to any of the slides, and I'd love now, if there's any questions, we can revisit anything, go into greater detail of anything, or just any comments or discussion points would be great.
Why is there no sidewalk on Green Street?
Right now, I'll go back to green. So the existing right of way is right at the existing pavement edge right now. So the city does not own property on either side of the pavement existing. Because that was one of the things we looked at of trying to incorporate, as you mentioned, a sidewalk or an off-road portion there. And in hopes of, as I mentioned, getting this trail construction going in 2025, the city and we discussed it and made the decision that the pursuit of possibly realigning this intersection and or claiming some right of way or easement to allow for an off-road portion would happen as a separate project, because it would just delay the construction of the connection that we just walked you through. So while this is a connection allowing this project to continue forward, it's the city continues to look at alternatives, and it's just going to be, that will just progress as a different project after this one. You know, again, in conversations now, but a solution that allows it to keep moving forward has not been solved yet.
You guys think that's safe?
Well, yes, I mean, this is a part of a lot of on-road transitions. It is approved by DOT. And obviously with anything, understanding, you know, user safety, understanding the enforcement of the new way the road will be used will be important. And signage, a lot of times what will happen, even though we have some permanent signage proposed, there are municipalities that will actually do temporary signage for a while and or temporary like cones or things like that, or flags on these new signs, again, to alert people to the new road patterns. So yeah.
That's one way, right?
No, it's two way.
That's one of my questions. Yeah, because it's one way on Farmer Market Day.
Yeah, I think it's only on Saturday.
Yeah,
That's one
when
way.
there's a farmer's market.
yeah.
Cause it's not very wide there, really.
No.
No,
That's,
But it's two buildings, right?
yep,
Yeah, there's no.
yeah, this is that existing building that literally comes up to the farmer's market sign is right on it. And then the other building is right there.
The new areas to the walkway, are they going to be lit? I didn't see any, or you,
There's no lighting incorporated in it now. There is existing exterior lighting on the roof, so that area will be lit. And I mean, Alicia, is there, it's not in this phase, but that is something that continues to be discussed. That is something that can be incorporated if that is the desire.
and how tall's the fence, and is it,
The one in
solid?
between?
Yeah, the one by the water resource recovery facility.
Right now, we're just showing it's very good. A 3.5 foot post and rail, like a split rail fence.
Oh, okay, so.
We've gone, that has been in discussions too, of is it a screening fence or not, but, right now there's, designs for improvements to the work building itself. So the idea is to sort of embrace it because it does exist there. And again, the next stage is detailed design. So the exact final fence is still up, it's still open for discussion.
You mentioned the pedestrian bridge and that there was a stairway. And that you're gonna try to grade it on this side. But what about the other side? Because the other side's worse than,
Oh, we know.
and that is just, I mean, if you grade it on this side and that one still looks like you're climbing a mountain, that's
Well,
not.
the way, and again, which you could expand on what I'm gonna say, but with any project, there are limits to it, and there's only so far we can go. And that we absolutely have talked about that. And so the understanding right now is, and the city would love to improve that connection on the other side, but that is not a part of this project, but just the bridge itself and getting out on that bridge to then look up the river and towards the lake, to me, is beautiful in itself. You don't need to keep going. So in the hopes of, we could just leave it as stairs right now, so both staying accessible, but to me, the opportunity is here as a part of this project to improve it. People can get out onto it and then come back. So right now it's a dead end destination, and because of that other side, which is the steepest slopes possible over there.
And we have been looking at the other side. It's just, it's another project for the future, and as Lee said, it's beyond the parameters for this project. And our focus is really to be able to move forward with the Saranac River Trail Phase 3, so we can have the full trail implemented within the
I
city.
think it's great you're doing one side.
We
That's awesome.
You could, within our parameters.
Yeah, no, take advantage of it.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
So I know you're talking about a new crosswalk, before, yeah, right there.
This one?
Yes,
Yeah.
which would be better than the crosswalk being right by the parking area, but I know people will still want to jump across the street. People aren't gonna wanna walk down to that crosswalk to go to the co-op.
Yeah.
Even though it's hardly any distance.
Right.
But, you know, I don't know. I think it would be great to have a crosswalk there. Definitely. But,
Did you say there would be a light there at that crosswalk?
No.
Okay.
No.
Sense.
Oh, that's not what I meant to do. I mean, this again, is one of those areas I mentioned, the curb bump out to sort of close off. And obviously there are those people who are gonna walk across and jaywalk. And I mean, with anything, and that's obviously why that crosswalk was put there. They were supposed to always use the crosswalk at the intersection. So the goal here is obviously this long corridor is to make that the safest and to connect that. And the conversation of this existing crosswalk again would be something that will DOT and the highway department aren't gonna want 3 crosswalks in a row. So I don't think there's an ideal solution because of how people are going to use things. But I think again, this connection is incredibly important.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. No, well, the other one's right by the parking lot, so it's kind of chaotic.
Right, yeah,
Like if you're coming around that, if you're making a left turn and someone's going
Oh,
across the crosswalk,
yeah.
it's always really dicey.
Oh,
But
yeah.
This might give it a
This would
little
be
bit
better.
more space for people crossing.
Yeah, exactly. It is.
Was green infrastructure, considered,
with on Bridge Street and Green Street, we're using the existing system there. And in terms of green infrastructure here, our final, that will really come in our detailed design. But yes, we'll incorporate that as it makes sense.
pervious pavement, pervious concrete.
Yeah, those sort of things we'll absolutely look at, yeah.
Are they planning on salting the walkway?
I don't know, what is the winter maintenance plan?
So it depends on who complains. So we get typically, I manage with the Department of Public Works. So we typically get 2 groups of people. We get the people who like to walk on the trail in the winter time, want us to plow it and salt it. We get the other group who want to snowshoe and ski. So typically what we do is we go down half of the trail with our machine, leave the other half with snow, and do as minimal salt as possible, because obviously if we're cleaning it off, we have to keep it safe for people to walk on.
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing with phase 2 in the Riverwalk now? Is that the
I
maintenance of
believe
it?
so. I know that's what we do with the Terry Gordon bike path down behind the oval. And we do that with the ones out here. So I'm assuming that's what the guys do for the furniture. It's actually hard to say because the original phase 1 is actually split up between us and SUNY. So SUNY Plattsburgh actually takes care of a lot of phase 1 trip.
Is there any other road work that coincides with this final?
As far as
Bridge
paving projects.
Street, any of that?
No.
Um,
The integrity of the bridge was examined, is part of this design, which I think we mentioned.
Oh, yeah, wondering about that, I didn't know where that sits in kind of the review, their ongoing constant review, like the bridge.
Yes.
And so I didn't know where that one. Yeah, that one's up to date on all its inspections.
DOT actually inspects all of our vehicular bridges once a year.
Wow. And our structural engineer just reviewed what DOT had done with the permit and was visited it as well, so we did a little bonus inspection on it.
Is there,
Yeah, I'm Tony Philman, I'm from Champlain Area Trails, and we're getting ready to put out our new edition of the Northern Champlain Valley Trail Map. And we want to certainly incorporate this trail in our maps. I'm just wondering, is there anything available now that really, that's in map form that shows the new river walk and this proposal? Is there anything available at this point?
We can exchange information at the end if you want. And you probably have it, Lee, and I have created some GIS layers. They're not beautiful, but I'd be happy to link up and discuss it with you. And my name's Alicia.
Yeah, and we can get you what you need in terms of that, because we didn't do the river walk, but we do have those construction drawings and then our layout currently, so. What's the time frame on getting that map file?
Next couple months, by the end of the summer, or
2024. Yeah, I think by the summer.
Okay, and then, yeah, we're good. Because I don't see, again, I don't see DOT having crazy comments on what we're showing here, so.
But this goes to construction in 2025.
Yes, but I'm assuming he wants to say, show like a future trail.
well, at minimum, like the river walk is a new element.
Yes, and that's
completed, that could be included, yeah.
is there any opportunity for restrooms along some of the walkways?
Like from phase one all the way through. So you're relying on public restrooms or private, businesses to.
And we would have to look at that for the other two phases as additional amenities along those trails. And I think, getting the Saranac River Trail installed is one huge step. And then follow up is how the trail grows and works with the community, and what are the additional provisions that may be needed and how much is it used. So those are things that we definitely would look at down the road. And all within reason and within budgetary sense, I would say.
Isn't there a component of public space at part of the eventual other side? There's not the commercial part, but isn't there a public component of that?
There is, and
Where is that?
Harborside 2 has some public space, and Harborside, the lakefront area of Harborside also has public space.
With the part, the east?
So the trail is surrounded by public space. And
Right,
then as you go out towards Peace Point Park, that is all public space.
okay. Where's the learning center proposed?
Right in here.
Oh.
And on the Harborside master plan, it is, it's proposed that this all would be public space along with. Over here would be the public space.
Right, and isn't there a restroom area in that plan? Like in the learning center or something?
Yes.
I believe in the
In the learning center, definitely,
Right,
yes.
okay. All right.
That's what I was going to say in the Harborside, the development here doesn't quite answer phase 2 and phase 1.
I know.
But down here, I'm gonna guess that ultimately there will be public bathrooms,
Yeah.
again, not part of this project, but I do think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, with another layer on top of that.
Yeah, as the use begins, like as this
Right.
continues to get developed, yeah.
Great.
Was any soil samples taken for soil contamination from the wastewater treatment plant or any other work that's done?
We did environmental studies and looking at invest like that, the soil investigations that have been done, we did not do any ourselves as a part of this project. We used,
Okay,
previous ones.
So there was actually some soil investigations done in that whole area for the NICEAG river cleanup remediation that they've been working on. They went down through and did take soil samples down through there, and they just have to work in the mouth of the river, which is what they're doing over by.
Yep.
Well, on the opposite of the top stop right now, they're setting up this time.
So Green Street's not being repaved, then, right?
Not being repaved. It's, if anything, it maybe would get like a top coat, but that's not right now, no. I mean, I'll go back out and look at it actually.
Nothing. Set that middle picture, right?
Right, nothing's changing here, except for signage. Again, the city's right of way ends right at the edge of the pavement, so this bit of grass belongs to this building.
So the city owns the road.
Yep,
so that the money that's allotted includes a contingency fund? Or is that
the what?
contingency fund? So like something happens, they have to do a change, is there like a 10 or 20% slush fund?
Within what the construction budget?
Right,
Yeah, there, I mean, we do have contingencies in it, yes, but that's again, that's our next stage of exactly
okay.
how we'll block
Would
that
you
out.
usually allot like 20% or?
Not at this stage of design, we probably have like a 15-20% contingency, but by the time we have final drawings, our contingency on the construction numbers are different, but sometimes we still do include something in the bid number to include something for change order.
We generally run like a 10 to 12%, like the Market Street, we had a 12% contingency fund for that project.
Yep.
But yeah, we always throw contingency in there just for unknown items that we might run into during construction.
Is there going to be another meeting after the final design?
Within the detailed design phase, I believe so, right? Is there? Or maybe not. Now I'm trying to remember. What?
This is the last meeting then?
For the preliminary.
For this one, and I don't remember if we have one, we'll have one in the next, stage.
I believe there is one built in. We just haven't been focusing on that next stage.
Right.
There were a lot of constraints that we had to take into account for this stage. So the stages were a little bit broken up with an allowed pause in between to ensure that we could get through all the contingencies for this one.
The DOT funded project, they typically require that you have to have so many public meetings
Right.
at certain stages of the project, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, here's a quick question. Would there be any opportunity for, one of the city buses to have a bus stop to drop people off or anything like that? Or is there markings?
But what's the bus route now? You're going down to Peace Point Park?
No,
Like
no, to drop people off like at Green Street or, you know, if people wanted to get to this site.
We would, I would say the city would be open to that kind of dialogue at this point in time. That is not on the table. We haven't been approached and we're looking for multi or alternative transportation in the city. We're looking at working with the county for regular routes around town.
Mhm.
So, and that would be way off into the distance, unfortunately.
And as Alicia mentioned, this has been recorded and this PDF can be made available if you want to be able to look at it and then provide more comments that way, or if you have any other questions. That works. There.
Can I make a plug?
Yeah, please.
The goal will be to put this information onto My City Plattsburgh, which is an online community engagement platform that the city uses to communicate out about projects that we're working on. So Saranac River Trail isn't up there right now, but we're hoping to create a little bit of a historical database of what work's been done on the trail, and then we'll also be using that as a way to push out information and updates on this trail. So if you're not signed up for My City of Plattsburgh, it's my.cityofplattsburgh. You can get to it from our city website. You create a user account, which allows you to provide comments and feedback, and you also can get email notifications about when things are being announced on the platform. So we highly encourage you to sign up for that. It's free. And that helps us have a dialogue with folks outside of a workshop situation as well.
You can write at the end, want to have closing remarks.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for coming tonight. There's a lot of good questions, a lot of good conversations, so thank you.
Yeah.